I'm Giancarlo Lino, joined as always by John Nelson of OSG Sports in Atlanta and the York Lions master coach Carmen Asacco. I guess we got to talk about the biggest news right out the gate here. York United, three straight in CPL. I'm joking. Leo Messi, MLS. John, this is big news because Apple TV is also involved and Adidas is also involved. And Miami's social media department's probably thrilled that they got 6 million followers now. And that stadium's going to be progressing, I assume. So, what do you think this does now for MLS having Messi aboard?
Nothing. I mean, come on. I mean, it's seismic. What you've basically done is sign Messi to an NIL deal, name, image, and likeness. What we're seeing right now with college football players and high school kids going to college and that kind of a thing. Because of the way that things are currently structured in Major League Soccer, you can only pay folks so much. You can only have DPs make so much. You can only have so many DPs. So to bring in a player of Messi's caliber, you had to be imaginative. So what you do is you give him a piece of the action for both Apple TV with subscriber base and
Actually, I think he owns half of Connecticut right now.
pretty well, yeah. ESPN's got budget cuts, so that wouldn't surprise me. It'd be a cheap date. And you end up with Adidas as well, and he's been with Adidas I think since 2007. So now he gets a piece of the action. So what this does, I think, is when you look at Major League Soccer, I think that it turns the spigot on about rearranging all of your financial constraints and parameters, because I think what you do now is you need to look into adding a fourth designated player, because I think that from everything that we've read, everybody short of Valderrama wants to go and play with Messi now down at Inter Miami. They're talking about Busquets. They're talking about Di Maria. And you've already got three DPs. You've already got Campagna, Gregory, and a third one that I can't remember off the top of my head. But you've got to figure out, okay, how with all of the financial constraints that Inter Miami currently has, how is all this stuff going to fit? I think that you now have kind of forced Don Garber's hand a little bit in trying to sit there and figure out the future very, very quickly. I think what you need to do is come up with a Messi rule, come up with some kind of Larry Bird exception where if you have this fourth DP, you can pay him whatever you want. He only counts toward X amount toward the salary cap. I think what you've got to do is you have to expand the salary cap, but you've got to have a floor and a ceiling. We all know that not every team is going to invest to the extent that Inter Miami will when it comes to Messi and friends. But you've got to figure out the future, and now the future is coming up on you pretty quickly. And if you're going to try and continue to be the league that has the most growth potential heading into the World Cup in 26, you've got to make some hard and fast decisions, and you've got to make these hard decisions very fast.
Yeah. Carmen, have you talked to Kamal Miller at all? Like, he's going to be playing with Messi. I'm sure that's going to be a thrill.
Yeah, there's kind of a joke in our chat there. It says, we were like, Kamal, you gotta tell him who's boss in Miami. You got a 2-footer as soon as he gets there, just to establish, that he's gonna have to earn his stripes. And he's like, I won't let you guys down. So Messi may be surprised that after his first session as Kamal Miller gives him a 2-footer, gives him a massive plancha.
He's got to work off that red card first and foremost now.
Yeah.
And like Miami seems to be falling into these DPs. Like, they got that rule there when Higuain came over, Matuidi. So, like, are they changing the narrative now in that market where, the league is going to soften their stance because they brought Messi to the league?
No. I mean, the stance gets altered. It doesn't get softened. The league found out that under previous administration, Miami tried to have 5 DPs be 3 DPs, and that math does not work out. And so that is why you're paying for the sins of the past right now. And I think what you've done is you front loaded all of your punishments so you could have Messi and friends come in with this next wave. No, I think that what it does, Giancarlo, is it just it forces the hand of the league to figure out, okay, how do we address all of these these players that are in MLS 2.5, 3.0, whatever you want to call it, 3.5 when Messi comes in to be a part of things. You got to figure out the future. No, you can't just release the hounds and sit there and say, okay, no salary cap, as much as I'd like for it to. You've got to do it gradually. And so I think that the next step in this is that fourth DP, is the Larry Bird exception, is that, that floor and ceiling when it comes to a cap. You can't just sit there and go, okay, Inter Miami, we forgive you and all this kind of stuff. No, I think that Inter Miami still has to pay the piper. And Chris Henderson had 22 player transactions when he first came in to try to fix what had been created previously. So no, it's just right now the league's got some figuring out to do. And the fact that David Beckham has been a party to this twice, first as a player when they created the Beckham rule, and now second as a part owner, where the league's got to figure out, do you make a Messi rule, like your Larry Bird exception or whatever. That's where we are right now with Major League Soccer.
And Carmen, like Messi gonna slot in there and the attack, obviously. Like, how do you think, should they change their tactics just like the way Messi's coming in, or do you think now with a new coach it's gonna change like what players stay and which players go?
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a massive change if he comes in July. And I mean, it is what it is for this year, but I think that there'll be some transitions moving forward. And it'll take some time for him to figure out the league, just like it did, well, Higuain, just like it did, other players, Zlatan. It's going to take him some time.
But remember, Zlatan conquered Major League Soccer. Remember that. He conquered it. Just ask him.
Yeah,
He did.
So there's a transition. It's a different type of league. It's it's different type of tactics, and it's very, like, people don't give it enough credit for the level of athleticism that it has in this league, and resilience. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see how he makes the transition. But he's definitely going to need players around him to do the work. But he'll have pretty much a free role. Like, it'll be interesting to see how the new manager uses him. Where they think that I to be honest, I liked how Bradley introduced Vela years ago with LAFC, kind of putting him on the right hand side, just letting him hang out with reliable defenders behind him, people that know that they had to shift, people that knew that they were going to do the work defensively. And it kind of wasn't a central position where it was where he got they got exploited in dangerous spots. It was kind of wing channel stuff. And I don't expect Lionel Messi's going to do much more work than Carlos Vela did at LAFC defensively. So yeah, I see that type of let's get him the ball. Let's see. Yeah, it'll be interesting. It's going to be a tough job to manage and coach that. But if it was me, obviously, I mean, he did a kind of free roll with Argentina, but they had, you forget their supporting cast. I mean, you forget that McAllister was doing 55. I'll say miles, not kilometers, per game, just to cover up what Messi wasn't doing. So, yeah, it'll be in a false nine, maybe wide situation, maybe a kind of a free roll, depending on what they do with Campagna, and leave him or keep him, or as a target. So there's lots. It's gonna be a tough coach. It's gonna be a tough way to organize him for sure.
I mean, and think about if this turns into Messi and friends. If your midfield is Messi and Busquets, then if I'm any young team in Major League Soccer, I'm running at that all day long. I'm running all day long, and basically Messi and Busquets would be sitting there going, all right, back line, you go for it. And I mean, and when you're back line, now I want to double check who started the back line in the midweek in the Open Cup game when it came to the game that they really should have lost against Birmingham in Open Cup. But when your back line is, then once again, we talk about salary constraints, and that's part of the larger problem. When your back line is Franco Negri, Kamal Miller, Sergei Kritsov, who had a blatant handball in the box that wasn't called, and DeAndre Yedlin. And I mean, and you've got Messi and Busquets, say as an example, ahead of that. Basically, you're staring at Yedlin, Kritsov, Kamal, and Negri and going, "Go for it, boys!" I mean, I'm running at that all day long. And this is where, to Coach's point, I think that the build for Messi and friends is going to be the interesting subplot here. You can spend only X amount of dollars. How do you spend the X amount of dollars after you brought in Messi and friends to fill in everything, and make it A, cap compliant, D, allocation money compliant, and, or the DP compliant, what have you. How do you make this roster compliant group with Messi and friends competitive? They're last in the East right now for a reason. Bringing in all of these different individuals, that's cool and all. You just might lose with higher scores. I mean, you might lose 4-3 instead of 1-0. I mean, that's what you're staring at right now. The build and who they bring in for manager is going to be the interesting part of this. How do they fill in the pieces for Messi and friends?
Now, the question I have, John, for you is, have you heard anything yet on when the announcement will be for the MLS All-Stars versus Saudi Pro League All-Stars for 2024?
No, I have not.
It's inevitable, though, right? Like, they got to fill out a 100,000-seat stadium for that. Ronaldo, Messi, take advantage.
I mean, I wouldn't. I mean, what you do right now, if you're trying to set yourself apart as a league, I think what you do is you do with amongst yourselves. Don't, the whole thing about going up against Liga MX, I could understand it because of Leagues Cup. That I get. You're cross-promoting yourself. You're cross-promoting competitions. Going up against the Saudi Pro League, I mean, there's no win there. There's no other than eyeballs. You sit there and go, oh, look, it's Benzema, it's CR38, it's N'Golo Kante, and a bunch of other dudes. I mean, and how many minutes would all of these stars, and Hugo Lloris, how many minutes would those stars play even if you did have Saudi Pro versus MLS All-Stars? How many minutes would all of these big-name dudes play? Maybe 20, maybe a half. That's it. Yeah, you put it in the big house in Detroit. You put it in the Rose Bowl. You put it in Jerry World, wherever you want to put it as a kind of a prelude. But how many minutes are those folks going to play? It turns into a circus, and you're not doing your product any good if you're Major League Soccer if you do something like that. I understand the Liga MX aspect, but frankly, I turn it into an entertainment weekend with players and your own. And we did a show. Literally, we solved the All-Star problem on a previous SDH. It took us about an hour and 15 minutes. And we basically workshopped the whole thing with the league itself. Do it yourself. Don't have any outside influence. Turn it into a weekend, kind of like what they do with NHL All-Star Weekend, but do it with your own talent pool and make sure that the world knows how you fit, not against others in these contrived ideas of competitions, but how your game is growing and how you want to be entertaining to your own audience in the U.S.
Speaking of that, like, part of Messi's deal here with Apple is a subscriber count. Like, I don't know if he is aware of this, but there's illegal streaming that goes on. Is he going to be in for a surprise when he sees that maybe the subscribers aren't the kind of numbers that he thought they would be?
Look, Apple's going to come up with whatever numbers Apple's going to come up with to make sure that the investment in this name, image, and likeness deal is happy. They're going to make sure that their client is happy. That's the bottom line. Major League Soccer and Apple, they're going to make sure that Lionel Messi's happy. I wouldn't worry about the illegal streaming aspect of it. Sharing of passwords and things like that. No.
No, we're not just sharing passwords. Like I'm sure there's fans, like they're just fans of Messi. They got their hookups, they got their sites. Go
Yeah.
around Apple. So like I
Listen,
don't know that part of me when they announced that, I thought, okay, they're putting themselves. I don't think Messi's aware of this, but good for him. I think the Adidas
Well,
thing's gonna kick in.
you don't think there's a minimum,
Yeah, downside guarantee.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's got to be a downside guarantee. Absolutely. No,
I mean,
yeah.
all said and done, he's making an investment in his future as well.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is what Beckham did, and obviously it was a great move rather than going for the quick buck, and that's it. Like Benzema and Ronaldo are going to make their money, but it's that's it. There's no future building, or there's no future. But not that, I mean, it might be a stupid example, but that's what I'm saying. This is what Beckham's built Beckham, like like and no like the LeBron James and the Michael Jordans of the world were they're conglomerates. They're huge, massive,
Yeah.
right? And this is what I think Messi's kind of finalizing after that name kind of dwindles, or after that name kind of goes off and the new name comes in. What's going to happen? Now Benzema isn't. I mean, again, it's $200 million, but still, it's not building that legacy that's going to last forever, like Messi is doing.
And even on that too, like when Beckham was in LA Galaxy, like he did go on loan to AC Milan, he went to PSG, closed out his career. Do you see Messi eventually like maybe taking a loan to Barcelona on a short-term deal?
Do you remember, Giancarlo? Do you remember the segment that we had last week? Do
Yes.
you remember the segment that we had?
He said there'd be no loan to Barcelona. There's nothing there. It's just Barcelona can't afford it. But remember all that? I remember all that, Johnny.
Last time I checked, in the 7 days since we've had that segment, Barcelona still can't afford going to Zellers to buy Aero bars.
It's worth a thought.
Not happening.
But
Never know.
the point is too is the game's changed. I mean, and Messi's also doing this probably for it's a lot more time off in the MLS. Not a lot more, but there's more time off in the MLS. But I mean, a lot of things are going to hit him, like the travel. He's probably not too aware of. Like,
Yep.
it's not the easiest trip going from Vancouver to Florida.
Nope.
So, and then back again, and then to LA, and then Colorado. So all those things, I don't know if he's ready for that. But yeah, I just think the makeup of the league now won't allow for those loans anymore. Not just physically. It doesn't make sense. Right?
Mm-hmm. It doesn't. I mean, if he goes anywhere else after this Inter Miami deal is done, I think he goes home. But the situation right now is dangerous.
Messi can't go home. Not yet.
I know. So I mean, like year and a half, 2 years.
Yeah, 40.
Yeah, when you're
playing in the Argentinian league.
I mean, just to go back to Newell's or something like that, going home. That's down the line. That's after this MLS tenure is finished, and that's just like you do the ceremonial thing, you go home, do something like that. I think that this is pretty much it competitively, unless the Neptunian Premier League comes and gives an offer where, hey, you want a moon, you want Europa or Io or something from Saturn, something like that. If he's interested in planetoids to add to his, to add to his properties and his property value. But no, this is pretty much going to be it competitively. But like I said, I want to know what it looks like, who they surround him with, and how they surround the rest of that roster to fill it in, to make sure that it's not just Messi and friends and it's 11 on 4. So you've got to where you're cap compliant. I want to see what the league does from this moment forward with this.
Yeah, should be interesting. And speaking of the league, like you mentioned, there's Zlatan, who conquered MLS at one point. He announced his retirement, 42 years of age, so he had a nice lengthy career. Scored his 500th goal in Toronto as their BMO Field. Saw everybody in the press box lose their mind, and after the game, he had that nice little cold line there for Michael Bradley, where he was talking about their little argument on the field, and he said he had more goals than he had games played, and he should follow his rules. It's playing on the character, I guess. It was a gimmick, I think.
Oh,
Like, I don't know if he was totally into that, but Carmen, what are your thoughts on Zlatan's career and his retirement now in AC Milan?
Yeah, he's one of the top 25 players to play. He's played at every big club. He's proved himself at every big club. Was part of a title-winning team in the biggest leagues in the world. He's definitely backed his banter with statistics, with great play. I mean, let's be honest. He was one of the most dominant players in the world, and it goes back to that. I'll never forget that when social media and video was trying to get, when he scored that goal for Ajax, where he kind of slalomed 4 or 5 players and cut it back, and it was that where we're like, who is this guy? Everyone, who is this guy? Who is this guy? And that was the moment that he built the Zlatan Ibrahimovic franchise, and it's to be honest, he made a ho hum story into an extravagant dream. So good for him. Excellent in the marketing, excellent in his, but all that saying, he was a great player on the field.
And John, like that thing about Messi, can he do it on a cold winter night on a Tuesday in Brighton? Zlatan's done it a few times when he played in the Premier League. Do you think Zlatan going to league like that was good for his career, or would you have preferred him be like a Messi and a Ronaldo to some aspect and stay at a place for close to a decade?
Folks are wired different. If wanderlust professionally is part of your deal, then you're going to go from league to league to league to sit there and say, hey, I've conquered Major League Soccer. Yeah, you did a good job of that. It's like, what challenges are out there for individuals, and it just depends on who we're talking to. When it comes to, all right, what worlds are there left for me to conquer? Oh, I haven't been to America yet. And so you come onto the field and you do what you did in your first match, and you go on Jimmy Kimmel and you're part of the Yuck Yuck Brigade, and you're saying things that make people laugh and all this kind of stuff. It was a market that he had not made an impact in his global brand. So I understand the idea of hopping into America to sit there and say, well, I've conquered Major League Soccer. And fine job you did, sir. Yes. Last time I checked the number of titles that Zlatan Ibrahimovic had in conquering Major League Soccer in America, that many. Did a great job of conquering America.
Well, there's some athletes, some people that live their life to write their book, or their third book, or their fourth book, and I think this was part of it. I think it'll be an interesting read, his take on American soccer. Who knows? Maybe even Michael Petrasso makes that book.
That smack heard around the world.
Yeah. So we'll see. It's going to be an interesting read when it comes out, and then go from there.
Yeah, it's just Zlatan. I guess you can say conquered MLS, no championships, but I don't think he wants to let the truth get in the way of his narrative.
No.
So that's going to be good for the book.
I mean, think about every good heel, Giancarlo, when they cut a promo. When a heel cuts a promo, they're not going to let the facts get in the way of cutting a good promo. I mean, how many times have we seen the villain, the bad guy, the heel, take facts and either not use them or distort them or contort them or not use them when you're talking about your own narrative? So no, that Zlatan as a soccer heel, he is not a soccer face. I'll tell you that. He is a soccer heel. And so heels cutting promos, they kind of leave things out when it comes to their narrative. So this was no different.
And just even on the topic here of AC Milan, Carmen, I want to get your opinion on this first, because Paolo Maldini, immediately after the season, he's a club legend, icon. They go and part ways with them. How bad of a look now, and how much trouble is AC Milan going to get to lure in some players and technical directors to come in with that kind of reputation that Maldini had?
Absolutely. I mean, when Maldini does something like that, there's something you just not done with integrity or professionalism, because he was the most professional player that we've known in Italy. He's professional in everything he does, and when it's not the best for the club, I think that he's really that's going to raise a lot of eyebrows, because he's an icon. He's the emblem of the club. He personifies what Milan wants to become again. So that's going to be an interesting. There's going to be a massive impact. I mean, let's be honest. It's bigger. It's as big an impact as Zanetti has on Inter Milan, and they decided to make Zanetti the face, and his persona, his mentality. Same with Maldini and AC Milan. Something's not smelling right in Milan right now, and it's not just the fires from Northern Ontario, John. You haven't mentioned those yet, mate. You haven't. All my friends from the States are like, "Hey, can you stop polluting our country?" I was like, "You've been doing it for 100 years. Be quiet."
Well, and I mean there's a lot of stuff right now involving Redbird and Billy Bean. And when it was announced, first off, Redbird and Jerry Cardinale absolutely got the hairdryer turned on with all of the players who are upset. I mean,
Say hi, Zoe. You're talking to everybody on.
I mean, you look at here, have your coffee. When you look at Mike Magnon on his social media, when you have Rafa Leao on his social media, say what they're saying without saying a word. And I mean, Jerry, the wage bill decreased the last 4 years running. And so now Billy Bean, who everybody in baseball knows for his Moneyball activities with the Oakland A's, looks like Billy Bean is going to be taking a more active role in assembling what Redbird wants when it comes to roster and the financials and all that kind of stuff. And if I was a player there, I'd be pissed. I mean, you see this continued lack of investment, because all Redbird is interested in is making sure that their P&L statement continues to improve on a quarterly basis. And when you have assets, I think Redbird has assets, I think, of $8.2 billion as a part of their global portfolio. And they are interested in trimming the budget and the spending of one of the teams that is one of the flagships of one of the leagues in Europe. This is a bad scene. And you're bringing in Billy Bean to kind of oversee this next wave of things. It ain't going to get no better. I mean, you will be – the way that Billy Bean constructed the Oakland A's, they were good to a point. And then when you got into the playoffs and things like that with teams that had bigger payrolls and larger access and more experienced rosters and these kinds of things, that was when Oakland continued to get beat. Now that Redbird is bringing in Billy Bean apparently for a larger role, I think they will be good to a point. But when it goes up against tougher competition that spends a lot more than you, then you're going to be banging your head against a wall, because you'd like to think that if you invested, you would be doing better, but you're not investing to a level of everyone else. So you will be lagging behind everyone else in Serie A.
Yeah, it's interesting because you look across there to Inter, and they're going on to a Champions League final. So, Carmen, what do you think Inter has done that maybe AC Milan should have taken note of if they want to have that kind of success?
Yeah, I think it was a lot of spending, but intelligent spending as well. I think that they do have a very good system in youth, and the Primavera system at Inter Milan is very good as well, developing their own players within, and just understanding what it's going to take, and kind of, I hate to say it because he's an absolute disaster right now, going off all of the successes of what Conte established as far as building a winning organization. he and then they didn't really go far away from the system of play. They didn't go far away from the players that they would bring in, and they have a very good balance, and it's also financially responsible there. It's not out of this world. Bringing in players like Dumfries, totally understanding that 70% of the games are going to be important, and him using them at the best times. Understanding when it's time to call time on other players as well. DeVries bringing in a Cherby the way they did, so strategically. That's been what a lot of the lower level Serie A teams or the mid-table Serie A teams have done. They've done a lot of great scouting and brought in players that were both financially useful, and as far as the market's concerned, but also financially useful in keeping them in Serie A. I think that Inter Milan bringing in Cherby kind of raised the level of their group and raised the level of their leadership, and at the same time, it didn't cost them a lot of money. And now they can probably sell one of the other center backs and make some money on it. And then you look at like Bastoni, and you look at other players that have come through the system, Barella, and just the strategical Chalunga from AC Milan. All these strategic moves made sense, and all these strategic moves made sense for sustained success, sustained the ability to be in a European a Champions League final, and the ability to win the Serie A as well. They're obviously not set up to do both at all times, but their scouting system, their conceptual whole is very in tune with what the club needs. And I think Inzaghi's a perfect, not yes man, but a perfect piece to understand this is what we want to do. These are our plan. All the blueprints align. And Zanetti, I think, keeps it all together with the integrity, with the ability, with all that stuff. I think that their foundation has grown into and then built from Zanetti and Jose Mourinho and all those. And it's been forever. But I think that this is not only sustaining, but they understand that they're getting better every year. And I think that this is the reason why they're allowed to get to a Champions League final, and they're in a position to win it. And this is the reason why they're in a position to win Serie A every year. Not that they will, not that they have enough depth, not that they have enough quality, but just the little things they do. Keeping Dzeko. Dzeko's been massive for another year, 36, 37 years old. It's been maybe even older. It's been massive. So just the little things that they do, and the continuity and the meshing of quality and leadership and all those things has made them sustainably successful.
And now, just even on that final, like, John, do you think Inter
No.
have a shot here? So no chance in hell?
All right, Vincent K. McMahon. I think that Inter will linger for a while. I think it'll probably end up being goalless at the half, but probably somewhere in the 60th minute, then you're going to get that moment that we always are attached to. I think that Inter will be focused on making sure that they don't get victimized like Manchester United did in the FA Cup off kick. So you have to account for Gundogan. You have to account for Rodri. You have to account for an inverted fullback in John Stones. You have to account for Alvarez. I mean, they come at you in waves and waves and waves and waves, and there's always going to be that one individual that will be left unaccounted for. You're going to have to double team. You're going to have to double team Holland, which means someone's going to be open. Then there's that individual who's going to be open, going to be clinical in the finish. And I think that that's what's going to happen. I think it's probably going to be 1 or 2-0. I think that both goals happen in the second half, but I think that Inter is going to be so locked in on the idea of trying not to have something happen in the first 3 minutes that they'll get past that moment. It'll be a competitive first half. You'll see a lot of probing by Manchester City, but I think that it happens all in the second 45.
Yeah, just tactically, Carmen, if you're Inter, how do you line everybody up here to stop them?
What John does forget is the Italians, and that's why what I mentioned earlier. The only team that I thought could beat Manchester City was Real Madrid, but they made easy work of them. But the Italians are masters of ball-oriented defending. So it's defending where the ball's going to go and where the ball is when they want it. So they'll leave the ball unmarked in different situations, but against the Manchester City, they'll leave the ball uncovered. I'm sorry. So they'll leave them have the ball in certain spaces. But against a Manchester City that has so many ways to break you down. I mean, arguably their 8th or 9th best player has been their best player, Gundogan, in the last 2-3 weeks, right? So that's and he. It's laughable to see how many ways they can break you down.
Mm-hmm.
And when they do get involved in an attack, how many people do they leave? Do they have to leave to make sure that De Bruyne and Haaland are taken care of? Like when you're going to have to leave 4 or 5 players in your kind of we call it a defending in your attack. You're going to have to leave players and forego some attacking situations just because of their danger in transition. And you're going to have to be very good in defending where you want the ball to go, making sure that they take away opportunities to Holland. But again, the Italians it's one game. That's the only thing that it's one game. We all know that Manchester City is going to have the ball 70% of the time, maybe even more. But it's going to be defending the spaces where they have to defend, and that's even tough to do. They may leave the ball uncovered in wide areas, but if they get on the top of the 18 or 20, 25 yards from the ball, there could be situations that are problematic, and they have to do very well at defending the spaces on crosses, because Manchester City doesn't cross the ball; they pass the ball. So there's just a level of quality that's that's we haven't seen for a long time in this. But if there's anyone that can do it, it's an Italian team. And I thought Real Madrid had an opportunity because of Ancelotti. But a ball-oriented defending, it's not necessarily about double teaming. It's just about overloads in central zone. It's about taking care of the spaces where they could be more susceptible to getting goals, and they have to be perfect.
All right, so I'm back here. John Nelson has to leave. So, John, promote the book, promote your social media, and have a great weekend. And in 2 weeks, John Nelson's 45th birthday. Carmen Asako is going to make him a cake, going to come out of the cake. There's his daughter showing him the cake, how to make the cake, everything like that. 2 weeks, John Nelson's 45th birthday. Go ahead.
Easiest way is on the Twitters right there at OSG Nelson. Soccer Dinner, Daily Radio, and the SDH app, available on iOS and Android. Book 6 right there, Noble Strong Lessons in Destiny. Very, very cool story about football in a small town and facing the tough challenge both on the field and off, and how a town wrapped themselves around the family that was facing that challenge. Noble Strong Lessons in Destiny. Noble Strong or John Nelson on Amazon. Do your search, and we'll be back at it again in a little bit.
All right. Thanks a lot, John. Have a great weekend.
Be good.
Take care. That's the Hall of Famer, John Freeman Nelson. We'll close it out with a couple questions regarding, like Giancarlo started off the show with York United. Carmen, York United 4 in a row. And everybody in York is talking about York United, right? They're not talking about Messi. They're not talking about Mitch Marner getting traded. They're not talking about anything.
No, the 4 in a row, three wins in a ton. Yeah, they're on a good run for sure. They're so solidly in third place, fighting for first. Great result in Hamilton, some incredible finishing. Yeah, it's just they're very pragmatic right now, and they're very efficient right now. So they, if Mobile Bully, gets even better, and we haven't seen the best of D-Row yet. They can make some noise in this league for sure.
All right. And prior to starting the show, we all talked about Team Canada getting new coaches. You want to fill everybody in on that?
Me?
Yeah, you. You're the coach.
I mean, yeah, they've got some new coaches. Apparently, Inter Miami fired Neville, and Coach Herdman has picked him up. I mean, the experience and his professionalism and his kind of is I think a very good addition. You know, uh, uh, they've made some selections that I you know would I'm kind of asking what happened and why, but that's not for me to say or decide. But yeah, I mean, and there's another gentleman who I'm not familiar with coming onto the staff, but I think Neville is going to be that breath of professionalism, the breath of someone that's been at the highest level in the Prem, and I think it's a very good addition
All right,
to
Giancarlo. I'll ask Giancarlo the question. I won't ask you because I won't create controversy for you, Carm. I'm going to ask Giancarlo the question. Giancarlo, how are they getting money to pay these coaches?
That's a great question. I don't know. I'm not in part of the CSB, so whatever campaign they're cooking up there, good for them.
All right, and a final question, and then we'll go around the table. So, Carm, Messi, the effect in North American soccer. Do you think it could finally get up there with hockey, basketball, baseball, and all that because he's playing here in our backyard?
I'm not sure why that question's asked anymore, because I think that they're there. They're like you might Toronto FC outdraws the Argos, who's been around
Yeah,
for
but
almost.
who doesn't outdraw the Argos? All right,
They,
Giancarlo's graduation outdraw the Argos.
yeah, they get as good. Like we talked about earlier. It's being part of it. The Toronto sports scene, the Blue Jays, and and hockey. I think the Toronto FC in its 20. Well, no, not 20. Sorry, it's in its
16.
2007. I'm not good at math.
16.
14, 15, 16 years. 16 years have earned the right to be part of that elite group of Toronto sports. And you go to a game, the atmosphere, the buzz, it's still amazing. Still amazing. So you're getting 30,000 people, and it's I've been going to a lot more games this year, and it's a great atmosphere. It's fun. It's good football. People are of the know as the games go on and as things happen. I think I think they've earned their right. So it's not about competing with the Blue Jays. Excuse me, the Blue Jays and with the Leafs, and it's about being part of it. I think they're part of the makeup of Toronto sports culture right now, and they have 20,000 supporters there that aren't going to go away. They're going to have moments of anger and moments of, hey, get your heads out of your butts, but they're not going to go away because, Toronto FC is a staple of our community right now. So that's great, regardless of Messi. But I think Messi's going to bring everyone knows Messi. Like, it's going to bring the average fan and maybe make them into someone that would love it, love the game after they learn about it. So there's going to be a lot more. I mean, how many billions watch the World Cup final, right? And how many of those billions, I would say a lot are right here in the GTA and right here in North America. So I think that obviously it's going to have a massive effect on the growth of the game. It's going to have a massive effect on the entertainment value of the game, and it's just going to reinforce where soccer is already. We're not. It's part of the. It's in North America. It's part of the elite sport environment. With the NFL, with the NBA. I think that this doesn't only. It adds to the credibility, but I think a lot that has been done. And you see the stadiums full, guys. It's not. You see the passion and the fun, and you see we're outdrawing probably a lot of the Major League Baseball teams in the same cities, right? Obviously, there's only 20 home games to sell rather than 85 or whatever it is these days.
81.
But it's made its place. It's set its foundation, and MLS and soccer culture in general. Everyone's going to be watching Saturday at 3:00 in the Eastern Time Zone. Everybody in North America is going to be watching Inter and Man City. Let's understand that it's ingrained. We don't need to have that conversation anymore about soccer versus basketball or soccer versus hockey. It's ingrained. It's part of the makeup of Toronto sports.
Giancarlo, I'm never going to ask your question again. He texts me and they're like all the time.
You're a respected reporter. You should run all your questions by John Nelson.
By the way, Carmen, so now that he's gone, what are you getting him for his birthday?
Probably what he got me.
A book? He got you the book, your autograph. You still never came and got it.
I'll give him my book.
Who wrote your book? How many pages are in your book?
Huh? How many pages in my book?
Can I write your foreword? Can I write the foreword?
Episodes have we done here?
200.
There's more pages in the Bible in there.
Huh? This is my book right here. See that?
Yeah.
Right here.
That's right. All right. By the way, Toronto FC does play Inter Miami in Miami September 23rd. Giancarlo, you're not taking the private jet. Carmen and me are going to go to Miami. He's going to watch the game. I'm just on the beach. The president of provinces of Canada need, a little relaxation time. Relaxation. All right, Giancarlo, tell everybody how they could get a hold of you.
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at John_411, Instagram, Giancarlo_Alino. Check out my articles on firedupnetwork.ca and sportskeeda.com. And if you're in Toronto, stay tuned next week because we got a couple of exciting guests on Vibe 105.
Are you going to let you cut the cat out of the bag? Exciting guest. Is Carmen Asako for the 17th time going to be interviewed by you?
No, you got to stay tuned on that one.
Once or twice.
Once or twice. All right. Carm, your team. Your team this weekend, how they're going to do?
Ask me to wear like revealing clothing next time.
Bring the numbers up there. We got to, drive up the subscription rates to compete with Apple.
All right. So, Carm, this weekend, your team, what do they have planned?
I'm unfortunately going to miss the TFC game, but I'm off to London. Our League One men play London in London. It's supposed to be a great experience there, great atmosphere there. And then our girls have a great battle on Tuesday versus North Toronto. I believe it's Tuesday or Wednesday. Tuesday against North Toronto, which is it's a lot of the people are the makeup of that new professional team that are involved in that group that are supposed to come to Toronto. So, yeah, it should be a fun week.
All right. Giancarlo, you cannot take his track jacket. It says CI. Your name's not CI there, all right? CI. See, there you go. Carmen, can you get me one of those or what?
This is from my early years at York University. I'm amazed that it still fits.
Well, I'm not even making a comment there. All right. Best of luck with your games this weekend, Carm. And we'll be back here next week for more of the world-famous soccer show. By the way, stay tuned. 4 p.m. today. Femme Friday is back. Female Empowerment Movement is back. Special over an hour show. And we're going to do a preview and a review of Game 4 of the NBA Finals. Who you got tonight for the NBA Final? This is Carmen Asako's Sporting Minute. All right, Giancarlo, Sporting Minute. Carmen Asako, go ahead. Denver, Miami, who you got?
I think Miami doesn't go away. I think they tie the series up 2-2. Miami's such a pain in the butt. I think they find a way to win tonight.
All right, and tomorrow night also we got the Stanley Cup Finals Game 4 in Florida between Vegas and Florida. Florida coming off a big victory last night in overtime. Who do you got?
Me, I got Florida. I had Florida the whole time for some stupid reason, and then I watched the game, and Vegas was like killing them 10 times better than them. But I don't know. They found a way to win. I think that this series, and hockey is about finding tactical ways to win. And I think that, and Bobrovsky is still in net and still the man for me.
All right, and Giancarlo wants Phil Kessel to play 1 minute of a shift in the Stanley Cup to get
if he comes in there, it's over. They can it's a wrap. If Phil Kessel goes in, just give them the cup to Vegas. It's done.
All right, and we have a question here from Marty Roberts to Carmen Asako. All right, so his question, by the way, it's your good friend Marty Roberts, so say hello to Marty Roberts. And he wants to know, are you going to go through the forbidden door and become an MLS coach next year? We want to know. Giancarlo wants to know it too, don't you, Giancarlo? Forbidden door, go ahead.
Probably not.
Probably not. That means I'm using messy language, meaning this. A lot of shekels, more shekels, and then he can possibly open the door, right, Carm? That's right. All right. For John Freeman Nelson, Carmen Asako, and Giancarlo Lino, you've been watching The Soccer Show here on the Fired Up Network. Stay tuned to today, 4 p.m., Female Empowerment Movement, Femme Friday. Thanks a lot, guys.
Bye, guys.